So, from moving on from NBA Live 18 to NBA 2K18, we got a trailer this week. Are you shook, Ben? Are you shook? You need to get shook. That is the title of this year's trailer. I suppose I'm turning into the cranky 30-something where words like shook and lit seem to annoy me more than excite me, I have to admit. But it's a fine trailer. It's pretty slick, as most of the trailers have been. It takes its name from Mobb Deep's Shook Ones, which is the track that backs the backing track on the trailer. Shows a lot of the Team 2K players and other stars of the league. And once again, as I said, Ben, pretty slick trailer.
Yeah, I still think the OMG trailer from 2K14 was probably more exciting, I guess, because it was obviously the start at
new generation. So
I think that had more hype and all that sort of thing. I don't know, it kind of felt a little lackluster in terms of things, compared to that one in particular. So,
a lot of people have been saying that, and I do think it is that impact of the next generation, seeing what a big jump it was from PS3, 360 to PS4 and X1.
Yeah,
just seeing, well, okay, yeah, they are bringing it with this new generation. It's not just going to be after we've gotten used to incremental updates or even downgrades. Some people felt in the graphics as we got towards the end of the last generation. To see the jump forward, I think it was a big shock. It was an OMG moment, I suppose.
Yeah.
So this is the trailer. This is our first look at the gameplay, I suppose. Actually, no, the art of NBA 2K18 gave us some gameplay clips. But this is, again, gameplay clips from cinematic angles. So it's not raw gameplay, it's just highlights. It's a trailer. So it's just going to show the cool moves and everything. But
I mean, it does show a couple of new things, like what looks to be like dynamic reactions to loose ball situations and stuff like that.
Yes. Jumping over a player that's on the ground, and that's a big thing, because we'll get to the gameplay blog in a moment, because this was also accompanied by a blog from Beluba, Mike Wang, talking about the improvements to gameplay this year. We've both talked about the loose ball situations before, Ben, where we felt like you're holding down sprint and going towards as fast as you can, but it's just a little trot to the loose ball. So
yeah. Or there's like no reaction and it bounced right in front of them, kind of thing. And
yeah.
So there's things where it's like you just sort of like frustrated, swearing at the screen, and it's like, why didn't you?
Yeah, it didn't feel, the play didn't feel alive. It's because we couldn't trigger the animation there, so so nothing happened. And I suppose to that effect, the gameplay blog, which came out, very detailed read. Talked about a lot of things that I think a lot of people have been quite excited about and feel are very promising. But the big thing, building on that and some of the other criticisms we've had of animations and feeling like it's been running in mud and not as responsive as we'd like. And one of the key points is that the animation and motion engine has been reworked. I'm reading off my own summary here from the main page, if these words sound familiar to people. So it's been reworked to basically remove canned moments and the lack of responsiveness, and that's a big thing for gameplay for 2K. As good as it's been, and I felt 2K17 was smoother and more responsive than years past. It still had those feelings of the game really, the animation really dominating the gameplay basically, and that is something they've been working to eliminate with this reworked. Animation and motion engine. Stick input and attributes govern how players move around the court, so no more getting stuck with unfavorable animations. Very good news.
Yeah.
Shot aiming has been removed this year from the stick, so there's a 1-year experiment, I guess, kind of like the 3 shoot buttons in NBA Live 07, which was something EA moved away very quickly from, and rightfully so. So they're looking to balance out stick skills and basketball IQ, as well as making sure that players' ratings and shooting form are probably factored in. So green releases aren't going to be as easy or cheesy in 2K18. They're not going to be based solely on release timing. So there's going to be other factors, I guess, as far as being open and so forth. So again, we've commented on that when we feel that people have just mastered the sticks in Pro-Am, and they're just knocking down shots with anyone and shooting 70-80% from 3-point range. So again, that sounds like a very good, very very promising change.
Yeah, or in the case of ZZ, when he gets like a plus rating but can't hit the shot.
And in Pro-Am, the shot feedback has seemed kind of broken in Pro-Am in that respect. It's certainly frustrating when you do see that and think, well, that was a good shot and a good release. What was wrong? What did I do wrong? But the aiming has gone. I reached out to, I sent a tweet to Mike. He didn't respond, unfortunately. I actually liked the right stick shooting with the aiming for free throws. 2K17 may have my favorite free throw mechanic, and I'm a huge fan of the team meter, so I don't say that lightly.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I didn't mind an element that, to sort of aim to a degree, but it was, I think, in what was happening with the jump shot factor for 2K17, like, in particularly with you and Zuzi, where, he's like, that was straight up on the stick and it just wasn't going down kind of stuff. So,
yep.
I could see the frustration and how it's like, well, unless it's tweaked and improved upon, then it could work. But if they're taking out, then I can understand in that sense. So
I think it's an admission that basically it didn't work out as well as they wanted. And these things, you got to try these things. It had merit. The idea had merit in it, and it's kind of like the right stick shooting in of all things NBA Elite 11 when they were trying to do that. There's a lot of problems with that control scheme, but one of the things they wanted to do was give players control over the aim. And of course, there are other problems with Elite 11 where you'd the animation from 3-point range would be a hook shot. It would trigger the wrong animation from long range. So you'd trigger a hook shot with the right aim, and you'd make a hook shot from 45 feet or something. So the Elite 11 had problems beyond that, but the basic concept had merit as far as being able to aim with the stick. And 2K obviously tried to do that last year with their Pro Stick. But clearly, people were using it in a cheesy way. If you were able to master that, you were able to shoot again 60, 70, 80% from 3-point range, which is just not sim, especially when you want that balance online. Especially with the E League coming, you don't want to have that cheesy looking play where you're talking about the authentic gameplay, and then you've got an E League where people are clearly not using basketball strategy, but they're going against Dazar's creed and they're playing video games, not basketball. You certainly want to clean that up. So I did like it for free throws, which again, and I also liked it for Elite 11's free throws as well. But for jump shots, I think it's been a good move. But the shot meters position beside players, which is going to be very much like Live 16 and Live 18 in that regard. Expanded shot feedback, as we talked about before. Informs the user about the quality of the release timing, how tightly they were covered, smothered, heavily contested, lightly contested, open, or wide open. So that's something else that I think we'll really appreciate in 2K Pro-Am, because there's been a lot of times when we've felt that it's been a very late closeout. And that we haven't really been covered. So, I mean, it also comes down to that logic being correct as well. But to at least have that feedback and know, okay, that's what went into the calculating the probability of that shot going in. That we have a bit more feedback there, so I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, for sure. I hope like it also takes into account like player height and even arm reach difference in terms like if you got like some, say it's like a small forward, even power forward taking like a long range or jump shot or something, it's like some point guard does the chase, trying to attempt to block it. Will that the height and arm length difference between the two, would that have a less impact, whereas opposed to if it was like a point guard taking the shot, but like a small forward / power forward playing the defense and trying to block it, So hopefully there's that kind of differentiation.
Differentiation,
kind of,
yeah.
Yeah, that's the word. And sort of bumbled it.
But you bring up that point, but you also want to have the ratings come into effect, because otherwise...
for sure.
Because otherwise people are just going to make the players with a huge wingspan and just get the cheesy blocks, which has also been a problem. So I think the 7'3" players with the arms like a condor kind of thing. But and obviously there are players who don't have they may have the physical tools to block shots, but they don't have the timing or the defensive smarts, and so they pick up the fouls because they just swat wildly at the ball, or they commit the fouls down low with the off arm or whatever, or there's too much body contact because they're not really playing defense properly. They're just trying to use their physical gifts rather than using them in a smart way. So hopefully the ratings come into effect, and it's not just, okay, let's create a 7'3" player with the maximum wingspan and block every shot.
Yeah, for sure. I think ratings in that team, I think that will also be a benefit to it as well. I was just sort of hoping that, the height and sort of wingspan difference would be a factor. So, just an additional sort of thing that's contributory to whether the shot is regarded as contested or not. So, yeah.
Oh, sure. With the longer arms and being taller, you should have a better advantage, a better raw advantage, I should say, to swat shots. But again, an undisciplined player, which would be represented by lower ratings, would probably be more prone to fouling or missing because they're swatting wildly rather than actually going for the ball properly.
Or doing like a Zaza or a Draymond instead of going for the block.
So there's also going to be quicker load-ups for jump shot animations, new explosive hop jumpers when you're moving left or right on the stick, new layout packages that have been reworked along the lines of different player styles, such as Euro Specialist, Floater Specialist, etc. So you're still going to have the guard and forward and big man layout packages, but they're also going to have those ones that are more like your Tony Parker with your floaters and Euro Specialist, your Dwayne Wades. And I think they talk about the jelly layups for Kyrie Irving, I think they're calling them. So different layout packages, and I think that's great that they have more variation with that and actually have those styles. So that's a good idea.
Yeah, for sure. Again, just sort of expands upon and makes things less generic in that sort of element.
Of course, and then it comes down to picking the right animations, I suppose. But again, if you've got that floater specialist, I suppose, then you're going to be able to, if you've got that teardropper badge, that would be the way to go, I suppose, with that and mixing and matching those abilities. Weight and strength playing a bigger role in the post game. Multiple moves can be chained together. That's a big thing. Obviously, with your Shaq, the cover of the Legend Edition, of course, you want him to be able to just overpower people in the paint as he did in his heyday. It's funny that we want to see the post game reworked and such, especially with all the historical players. But it's funny how that's kind of become less
prominent.
A lost art form in some respects.
Yeah, for sure. So, hopefully it is sort of like, if it's done properly, it'll give people appreciation of the low post game and not seen as a dying style of play and that. So yeah.
But even in general, weight and strength obviously differentiation in that does play a role.
That's a big thing
all across the game, the same way as speed and explosiveness. And that's and going back a few points, that is something that people have pointed out that there has been problems with the speed in bigger players catching up with fleet-footed players when it shouldn't happen. So with this new animation and motion engine, or the rework animation and motion engine, I should say, and players not getting stuck in the unfavorable animations, hopefully no more of those hitches before dribbles. That's the big thing there that I hope they've gotten rid of.
Same. Or it stops you at the 3-point line, or at the top of the key, or something, or it tries to force you to the corner spots, and it's like, that's not where I'm trying to go.
Absolutely. That too. I was thinking, when you hit sprint and you start to try and take off, and there's always that kind of getting in gear motion, like that animation, that little hitch, and where the player stalls. And granted, when you do in real life try and take off, there is a bit of resistance at first. That is physics, that is gravity. But the way it works out in games, there is that definite hitch compared to when the CPU does it. And it's that balance that I think they need to work out. So I hope, going back to that point, I do hope that speed issue has been fixed as well. Here's an interesting one to the changes in the controls. Tapping or double tapping the post-up button will perform a triple threat dribble or post move, and that's intended as an alternative for users who are still coming to grips with the pro stick moves. You can obviously still do those with the advanced moves, but you can, I guess, canned is the wrong word here, but maybe a contextually appropriate move just by double tapping that button while you're still trying to learn the advanced controls. So that's an interesting addition.
Yeah. What's what I was going to say? Damn it! I'm so tired from doing. I forgot. I've lost my train of thought. Um,
I mean, I think it's good to hold people's hand to a certain extent, especially when you're new and learning the controls.
mm,
I think I would have liked that a bit more. I probably would have gotten into 2K a lot earlier if some of the controls hadn't felt as uh, overwhelming and contrived as they did with the first few iterations of isomotion. I think the game's got a lot more intuitive with their controls since then. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good addition for doing that. As long as it's not an overpowering situation, as long as you
oh, yeah.
can't, as long as it doesn't become a crutch, it's more just a way of being able to play the game until you get used to the extended controls. But it gets to a point on either high difficulty or against a human opponent who knows all the advanced moves and is good on the sticks. It's going to be less effective there, but it's going to help you. Because that's the thing, if you pick up a new game and you're trying to get used to the controls and you're getting blown out and you can't feel like you can't do anything, you feel like putting the game down because it's not giving you anything. So
That
yeah,
the freedom movement or in things like that you're intending to do. Yeah. So or
so
not feeling the response that you're aiming for and that sort of thing.
so as long as it's contextually appropriate and not overpowering, that could work out for less experienced users. People still trying to come to grips with the pro stick moves. It sounds like if you know how to use the pro stick, it's still going to be more effective as it should be. See how that plays out, of course. But I just thought that was an interesting point there. We've got receiver control this year, which will allow us to take control of the pass recipient to better position them to receive the pass. Also, possible to choose between a short pass and long skip pass for more precision. Thought we could already do that, or maybe that was something we lost with some of the controller changes. But passing is an issue with the past couple of games. Certainly 2K17, either the pass that goes overhead. Um, we've done that a lot in Pro Am, have we not? Trying to
Yeah.
pass to the person who is admittedly cherry picking, but but with somebody who should be able to make a pretty open pass, but it's just flown, either really gone wide when it's a really easy pass to make to the wide open person in the open front court. It's either flown out of bounds or it's zoomed up and hit the ring, which is really when with my Hall of Fame Dimer badge. It's really frustrating when that happens because I'm like, well, what did I grind to get the Hall of Fame badge for? if I can't make a pretty easy pass to somebody who's cherry picking in the open front court.
The worst one is like those 2 to 5 feet passes that just sort of go absolutely astray somehow. It's like, yeah, because that was so hard to make.
And passes. Even players do mess up easy passes in real life, but it feels very random in the game. Like, oh, you need to have a turnover here. You haven't had a turnover for a while, so you're going to mess up this pass, or you.
Or the players' arms do like this sort of quirky animation, like they try and go for the, and it's like some of the kung fu grip sort of action figures where you had where you push like a little lever thing at the back of them and their hands sort of go up, like both
sort of
hands
shoot up backwards. Yeah.
That's kind of like that weird sort of element to it.
Or the players getting sucked in a certain direction, or they hit a player and you get a turnover and it just feels really cheap because it feels like the animation has been broken and not in a realistic way, not in a way that a defender broke up the pass. It just looks like something broke in the game and it glitched into a turnover.
Yep.
That's something they need to cut down on. Receiver control, at least when you're playing against a CPU or one-on-one against a human opponent online, or locally, I suppose, if people still get on the couch and play each other. I don't know whether that's still a thing. We may be very outdated dinosaurs in that respect, but that receiver control is there. But I do hope we don't have some of those same issues with passing. The floaty passes as well, that's a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we've seen some of them in the Live 18 demo, and I really hope that they can be taken out of both Live 18 and certainly 2K18 after some of the moments we've had. We're trying to make that crisp pass around the perimeter for the outside shot in 2K Pro Am, where we've come on, it's ZZ's open in the corner, Kenny's open in the corner, and it's just I've just sort of floated over like the ball is full of helium. So definitely want to see that fixed up. And finally, and this is getting back to something that we touched on, or you touched on a moment ago, collisions between offensive and defensive players have been improved. There's more hip riding and less stonewalling. So that's pretty important, especially with the brick wall screens that they've had in previous games. So there's more about the player movement and riding the hip. Logic for ball vulnerability has been enhanced. Hopefully we don't have any of those lost balls the really cheap ones that seem to happen a bit too often. Foul calls have been revamped. I mean, sometimes we've gotten away with one. I posted on Twitter a while ago the Thrill Ho give and go, or give and go Thrill Ho, where we had you and I had a really good give and go play. But it started with you getting away with a foul on a 3-point shot. So we have benefited sometimes. So we can't say that we've always been screwed over by it. But
and that one where we blocked the absolute hell in, where you
let
the guy hit the floor.
If he threw his controller, it would have been very justified, because we really mugged him on that play, the two of us, and or maybe even the three of us. I think got to him on that one.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I noted in my summary of the developer blog, which I thought, because it really stood out to me, because we've had issues with it, not just in my career and the other 5-on-5 modes, but also 2K Pro Am in particular. Closeouts are less cheesy, especially when they're using Intense D. If you're just using Intense D, but you don't actually go for the contest or the block, it's just a half-hearted attempt. Something that they have said before, and it was supposed to be implemented, but it was still a little bit cheesy in 2K17. So that's nice to see, because I feel we get screwed over a lot in Pro-Am with late contests on using the Intense D trigger, and it just forces you into that bad shot, even though they've gotten there really late. That the trajectory, we've even seen the trajectory of the shot change mid-flight. So
that one shot in particular, where I took it from like the top of the key, and the guy was probably, say, about a third of the way from between the basket and me, and the ball magically warped, like Jedi warped.
Yeah. Very, very cheesy on D. And I mean, D, the defense has been a problem in basketball games really since the early days. That offense has always felt a little bit more overpowered than defense. So that is something that they've always been balancing throughout the years. Pretty much everyone who's made a basketball game has dealt with this issue, but it wasn't implemented particularly fairly in at least in online. So I'm glad that they've fixed that up. And also attention has been paid to loose ball situations, more 50-50 balls and things like that. And we saw it in the trailer, jumping over someone who dived for the ball, being able to jump over it and keep going for it. So a lot more situations where the game feels live from the looks of things.
Which is good. More dynamic and less
canned, I think, is the big thing that they're trying to go with the gameplay. That it feels much better and less canned and less running in mud and just more alive and dynamic. We were talking about it before, and I think we touched on it when we were recording actually. But the players looking at the ball and reacting and actually getting the. We've had situations where the CPU has just watched the ball go out of bounds, or even run away from a loose ball and let it go out of bounds in Pro-Am, and certainly in other modes as well. And you're saying, but you were right there. What? The animation didn't trigger for whatever reason. So that awareness hasn't been there. The brain hasn't been as intelligent as it should be. So it's very promising stuff from the gameplay blog, and it sounds like they've been working on some key areas. It's been pointed out, Sticky Fingers in the forum, a member of our forum, has dug up the gameplay blogs for 2K16 and 2K17, and it's worth noting that there is familiar things have been said. And of course they're going to talk about these improvements each and every year, and there's going to be gradual improvements. But once again, it does sound like they are on the right track. It sounds like they're focusing on the right things, and hopefully it pays off. I guess we'll find out in a couple of weeks in the prelude.
And yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful in terms of those things that they've stated are actually true this year in terms of it. So fingers crossed in that sense. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. We can only judge the game with it when we've got our hands on the sticks, much the same way we've been doing with the NBA Live 18 demo. So we'll know in short order, I suppose.
Yeah.